Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be going through the Geelong Cats preview for 2024, in which they don't have too many guys I'm interested in. Just looking at my notes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do have a couple, like the more rookie range guys that they have. They're sort of interesting as their list is going through a massive overhaul of sort of those older guys going out, like Dangerfield, Duncan, Cameron, Blickhalves. Looking through here, Stanley as well is going to go soon. Zach Tui's on his last legs. Tom Hawkins. They got a lot of guys that are very, very old. Gary Rowan as well. Colin Jasley as well is probably almost past it. And they have a lot of youngsters here that could be very, very impactful in this year, especially fantasy perspective. So just a look at that. But before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this preview. So, as you can see here, I have the Geelong guys that I was just flicking through to tell you who I think is going to retire soon. But the first guy on my list is Tom Stewart, and he's basically signed for life at Geelong, now signing a 4-year deal, and he's 30, so he'll be 34 when the deal runs out. And he averaged 96 last year, but if you take out the 14, that he injured in the opening round here, you can see against Collingwood for a 14 here. Let me just bring it up. 14 in 12% time on ground. You'll see that he goes up to a 100.2, which is already 4 points of upside. Do you really need upside out of Tom Stewart? And Tom Stewart is one of those ones in those sort of price brackets that I'm looking at now, where if he does, if Nick Dacos doesn't do well, and Tom Stewart, and I'm like, he doesn't do well in round 0, then he's got the tag, which will limit his output. He's going to lose cash. I might as well go Tom Stewart, who isn't going to lose cash, and is sort of that. Whereas Tom Stewart, Tom Stewart is also in the side, I reckon, at the moment. Yeah, he's in that D2 spot. But he could go to D1, and I just use sort of Nick Dacos' money to go either to Sicily or something like that. But Tom Stewart could easily end up that D1 spot if I go even cheaper. So he's just a store in the side, I reckon, at the moment. And the thing I like about Tom Stewart is that he does have the ability to just he is one of the best interceptors in and one of the best roamers off his man. And the only problem I have with him at the moment is that with Stewart there is a potential tag implication. Like we look at it here, and he has a 66 in round 14, which was against Port. He got tagged in that game. I believe Ollie Lord might have done it, but he definitely did get tagged. And then did he have another tag game? He might have had a tag game against Freo as well. He did have a couple, and I think he did against Hawks as well for 70. But so he does have the tag potential. And if he doesn't, I may not be able to roam freely as much with Radigalia leaving, but he's similar to the likes of Sicily, and hopefully O'Sullivan can come into the Geelong setup right away. I hope he does, because that will allow the likes of Tom Stewart to hopefully roam freer if he gets off to a good start, O'Sullivan. We see here that Stewart has an L5 of 107 and an L3 of 106, so there is a backing of consistent scoring to end the season. So it'll be just interesting to see what he can put up. As you see, that low score of 14 does hurt a little bit. And you look at his averages over the year, and you'll see that he's roughly around the same mark each year. So it'll be interesting to see how he puts up in 2024. But as a sort of defender, he is always around that top 6 conversation. So I reckon he can take him to the next level and average 105, something like that. He could do that, but I reckon even just him averaging just a 100 score should still be top 6 with Sam Doherty, leaving the defence for the midfield role, and some other defenders going to the midfield role. So it should be interesting, like a Dawson and stuff like that. Opens up a higher potential for the the defenders. If we look at this, and I just show you what I mean by this, you'll see that he is the 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th priciest defender. So he's in that sort of top 8 that you sort of want you want sort of 6 of the top 10 defenders, and I'm going for the priciest one as well as Tom Stewart, and Nick Dacos could obviously drop down a little bit, but not going and loading up on like a Sinclair or something like that, which Nick Dacos should drop to, but not loading up on 2 or 3 of the 900k guys, as I don't think they will all return to what they did last year, as that usually is what happens. But anyway, back to Geelong. And the next guy, we scroll a little while down. No, we don't. We actually don't scroll. I was looking for the favorited icon. And the next guy is obviously Cam Guthrie. And the fact that Cam Guthrie is priced at only 740k is ridiculous at this point. He is coming off of a 110 season in 2021. The 85.9, if you look at it with the 1.25 multiplier, times 1.25 times 84.9. He is a 106 in 2020, a 109, or basically 110 in 2021, 96 in 2022, and then in 2023 had an 87. So he is going to be priced at 0.88 times the 95.9, which is the 84.392, times that by that, and you get the 762, which is roughly what he's at. So yeah, he is priced at around about the 84 range, which is an interesting proposition, but 84 for him, that still unders his 2023 numbers where he had an 87. And I reckon with Dangerfield on the outer, Selwood has already been gone for 12 months, but we really haven't seen Cam Guthrie without Joel Selwood. So I reckon he could easily have really good numbers here. And you look at his CBA numbers, and you see he was only at 58%, and the previous year he was at, let's look at that, previous year he was at 65%, so there is room for growth of 7%, which is roughly, I think, which is roughly a 1.12 rise, and a 1.12 rise on an 84 in itself is already a 94. So I reckon you could see a multiplier, something like that, and him go back to a 96, and that's why there is potential for him to be that sort of M5 role, and that's why he's one of the many. We've got probably about 6 in that M5 role. That M3 role has a couple as well there, and that the M1 and 2 I think are set, so that M3 could go up to an M1 or could stick at that M3 price, and that it's currently, I think Jack Steele is currently in at that M3 range, so he could go up to a big guy in Tom Green and go back down to a Sam Walsh, or he could stick with a Tuka Miller, which would be at that M4. He'd slow down a little bit, but so that's sort of what I'm looking at, is that sort of there's a couple places that could switch, and one of those is this M5 range with, do I go a premium, do I go a mid price, or do I go an heavily undervalued former premium in like a Guthrie, or potentially even an Amon there, but I would rather Guthrie over Amon, to be honest with you, as Amon you can just pick up post round 6 dual position players, and he'll be the first sort of upgrade that you could potentially do it around that 850k or so. I suspect he'd be around then, and that's very gettable off of like a Zach Williams or something like that. So there's Cam Guthrie. If I just look through my notes a little bit more, and I pretty much hit the nail on the head with all my notes here. The next guy I want to talk about is the Tanner Bruin. And Tanner Bruin, if we go all the way up to Tanner Bruin here, averaged 70 last year, and you will know how much it was almost a piss take at the point that he played in at the start of this last year. If we look at his numbers, it just so annoyed me so much because he was so. If we look at it, average 50, and I thought, yeah, he's on average. He got 65 in the first game, and I thought, okay, he didn't have the best start, but at 65 it was decent, and he had only 64% time on ground, so I was like, okay, he could step it up a little bit. Then he goes and drops a 43 or 42 and gets dropped. So yeah, no, he was in the almost never again list just because of that. And if you look at that, I was thinking, he has Hawthorn and West Coast, they're supposed to be bad sides, so like he could have easily dropped 2 80s on them and made cash, and it just didn't work. And he was at like 430k as a mid forward or something like that last year, and is now a mid only, average 70. But the thing I like about him is the fact that I feel like he is the one that's going to go under the radar, because Paddy Dangerfield I don't think plays on in 2025. And I think there is almost going to be a changeover year, and I reckon he is going to have an increased CBAs. I mean, we've already seen it. He's already up to 49% CBAs, and you just look at that. He had more CBAs in the back half. If you look at 2022, you have to go to GWS, I believe, to see his 2022 numbers. Tanner Bruin, 27% in 2022. So he had an uptake of 20%. He could have another uptake in 20% or so range. And you're sort of looking at that sort of, if he has another uptake of 20% in CBAs, you could see him go 90. So he is in the conversation, but priced at 70, which is around 640k. If we look at it, where is he? 638k. So it's an interesting proposition at 70.7, priced at 638k. I don't think I will go on him. But if he does well in preseason, there could be a chance. If he goes 140 in preseason or something like that, then he should be on for that big role or big price, like cash gen out of a mid price, like almost into a premium. But just one to watch, as I really do think he has the properties of a guy that could go big, as he does. He was a decent tackler. If you actually look at his numbers here, I'm pretty sure he was a really good tackler. Career splits. His averages, he averaged 4.8 tackles a game last year, and that's been up on the rise. So if he can get that to 6 tackles a game, like he could easily do, and 20 touches and 4 marks, then that's already probably close enough to the point where he's going to average 90, 92, which is really, really interesting to watch. So just to watch here with him over preseason and see how he scores, but one that could easily pop and jump up to that next level. Then the next guy is Toby Conway, and I haven't heard much about him. He did have a 48 game, so I don't need to look at the stats, and the VFL website is down at the moment, so I can't really look at his stats too much. So let's actually look at the VFL stats is down. If it's down, then that sucks, but if it's up, then we're good. It's down at the moment. It's been down for a while now, so that is just annoying. But that's that. So we can't look at his stats, but I think I've heard rumours that he could be a number 1 ruck. And if he isn't number 1 ruck, it'll be interesting. And as you can see here, in then one game he played 57%, and Stanley had 43, but the Cards didn't play. So it'll be interesting to see his role if he does play. His 48 is down to only if we do the discounts, it's only a 35.04, so it's already 13 points of upside if he gets just the plus 13 from that to that 48, but it was against English. He's going to have easier rucks. I reckon he could go 60, and 60 is plus 25, which is exactly what you want out of an R3, considering a lot of people will be going for the trusty dusty sort of Max Heath in that role, or Archer Reed in that role, I think as well, that sort of min price. Whereas if you want to go, and especially this is prominent and the only real problem is round 1 and round 5, and by round 5 you're probably going to have a rookie that's been dropped already, so it doesn't matter as much. But round 1 is the only problem with this going with Toby Conway, is if he plays, and but if he doesn't play, then you just go with a ruck that is playing or whatever. But if he does play, then you don't have necessarily a captain, your VC sort of loophole, captaincy loophole, which sucks, but it's 1 round, and if you might burn it by 20. But I'm probably just going to put I'm probably going to either way put the VC or captain on Butters anyway. So I'm going to target the West Coast game, and the West Coast, if we look here at who West Coast have, we look at North, but West Coast have Port in round 1, and I know that, and North have GWS, so if I end up, it's either going to be Tom Green or Butters that gets the captaincy, which is still a really good choice in my opinion either way. And then there are some other teams, like who is playing, Western Bulldogs could be one to play against. Melbourne, don't think I'll have any. You got also Hawthorn, which could be one to go against. Essendon, don't have any Essendon guys, don't think I will. Who else? Essendon in itself have Hawthorn, so that could be interesting for Sicily if you have Sicily. And who else is down the bottom? Richmond as well. Play Carlton. Don't think I'll have any Carlton guys in there. But then again, you could just captain like a who does potentially like a Sydney have they have Melbourne, Collingwood in round 1. Could be interesting if Collingwood lose another ruckman. You could just captain like a Brodie Grundy or something like that potentially, but there's so many different captaincy options that I think playing Toby Conway at R3 is just so much better value for money, as you're going to get that cash gen, and that cash gen for me last year really helped in the back end. That extra 200k I got out of Samson Ryan, I got out of him at a decent time, not a perfect time, but a decent time, and that really got me an extra 200k that got me an extra premium pretty quickly, which was what I wanted. And you still end up with the dead sort of rookie picks. I had Hewland, I had Chester at most of the season, I had Ned Long played a lot of the time. So I had like 3 or so guys that were dead picks each round that I could basically use loopholes every single week, and that's how you get your best scores, etc. But I don't think there's much problem with Conway playing at R3 if he does play. The next guy I want to talk about is Jai Clark, and this is basically on the trend of the fact that Geelong are going through this rebuild on the run, and the fact that Dangerfield's probably going to play less midfield time, Selwood left and stuff like that, and Jai Clark is the homegrown boy from the Geelong Falcons from last year. He was drafted not in the most recent draft, but the one before that, I believe. And I think his one game of 36 really showed that I think he can take that next level, that next step up. If we look at Jai Clark's numbers here, and I haven't done the pre-planning for the any other game. You can see 25% time on ground for a 36. He is loaded, and I wish I could give you his VFL numbers, but I'm sure they would be absolutely stacked. I think he's the one that is the best rookie just to have off the ground, and you could potentially loop him in. But I think he's one that is going to be able to score enough that when you have the best 18 in the bye rounds, you can chance it on him. And if he makes a 90 or something like that, then that's just a barrier sort of as a 15th or 16th guy to have a 90. It just really helps limit the loss of potential having a primo off or a mid-pricer off with the early buys. So I just really like the look of Jai Clark. And if we look at the CBAs, when he played, if we look at it, 26% CBAs and like 25% time on ground. I really like the look at him. I reckon he could take over from... you have Paddy Dangerfield. I don't think will play that much midfield time. I think they'll swap it over this year. And Sam de Koning is a ruckman anyway, and I don't think anyone else really is that noticeable. I don't think Stewart will have to play midfield time. So I think Guthrie, Bruin and Clark are the ones that are really going to benefit from the more midfield time. So that is Jai Clark gone through, and then the last guy to go through is Sean Manor, and I really like this selection. Addy is ready to go at 26, mid-forward, kicked 6 goals in for Werribee in the losing grand final, had 26 disposals as well for a ridiculous score. If I actually bring it up, I might be able to bring it up. AFL.com. Can I bring up the VFL scores? Fixtures, VFL competition, round 2023 grand final for the VFL. That's the AFL. Let's go to the VFL here. The grand final was... that doesn't look right. That was the VFLW. Let's go to VFL. There we go. Suns versus Werribee. You can see this game here. He had a 133 in a grand final with 6 goals, 27 touches. Not even 26, just 27. 6 marks and a tackle. You can see that, as well as Elijah Hollins, which we will get to for the Carlton, as that was mentioned by Didact. So that'll get used and talked about. A 133 in a grand final is pretty good. In a losing side, 6 goals, 2 is pretty big. 27 touches as well. So leading goal kicker, almost leading the disposals, but Elijah Hollins did that as well as some of his other teammates. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Sean Manor play. And at 200k, there isn't much that could possibly go wrong. 200, divide that by the magic number, times that by 1,000. You have him priced at 22. He's priced at 22. There's no way he doesn't go over that. He probably went over that with he would have gone over that with just his goals in the grand final, let alone his disposals, let alone his marks. His non-disposal work in the grand final would have got him 22 from his handball, from his marks and his tackles, and then his goals would have got him 38 as well. So that was 60 points there. Anyway, I just really like the look of Sean Manor, and one guy that we could potentially be using off the bench in the bye rounds. But anyway, that pretty much is the video for the Geelong Cats. And then you also have the likes of the Fremantle Dockers to finally do, and that'll be the last video I do for this massive roundup of teams. And that 301 will be without stats, as I didn't get to do all the stats. And I've got other busy days. I'm not going to do my background research of that, which will probably mean it will be a slightly worse video, but I think I can sort of talk through the main guys, etc. on the Freo Dockers, as they're sort of a big three, and then Heath Chapman as well. But anyway, that is the video, 20 minutes or so, so good timing for that. And I guess I'll see you guys in the Freo one, which you'll see tomorrow, but this will be recorded on the 2nd, but it'll be up on the 13th. So you'll see that and it'll be pre-recorded well before it goes out. But anyway, I'll see you guys in that video there. Bye guys.